And we are live. Welcome to the SPFBO Blitz. We have the one and only guest, and that is the one and only Bree Eberhard. Hart. I can get it out, I swear. How are you doing tonight, Bree?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. How are you?
Well, I question my life choices all the time, but I'm here, so.
I mean, I feel that. Understandable.
So tell us about your book and what faction or what group you're in SPFBO.
I'm in the fantasy faction. My book is a upper young adult contemporary fantasy, Strangers in Our Heads. It is about, it's a dual point of view, first person present, between Gemma. She's mostly my main character. She's an empath and orphan, um, and it's just her and her sister. She actually ends up losing her sister. I swear it's not a spoiler. It's on the back of the book. So she ends up losing her sister, and her empath powers actually expand into something kind of uncontrollable. She can suck the energy out of any living thing. So afraid of hurting her foster family, she runs away to a boy that's been in her head for years now. They've been have like a weird dream connection for about the past 5 years, and that comes in my other point of view, Theo Goodwin. He can astral project. They do not at this point in time realize that they know each other in real life. So he's just kind of, he thought he like made her up in his own head. So she actually gets guided to him, and he's kind of a leader of like a ragtag group of magical misfits that are all on the run because the authorities are hunting kids like them and either capturing or killing them. So basically, they eventually meet each other, realize that they are real life people, not just a stranger in their head, and just starts going into the authorities, catching up to him. There's an evil entity that's trying to steal his powers from Gemma, and it's just a group of kids trying to survive on their own on the run.
So found family trope, and yeah.
Yes, very
Yep.
strong found family.
Yep. Always a good one to have in your book.
Yep.
I don't do it because I like having my book cut early, but good for you.
That is a lot to digest, and it makes me think that winters must be very long up there in Buffalo.
Yes, winters are very long.
Do you have to ever look back and like just kind of remind yourself of what powers which people have?
Oh yes. Actually, my sequel is hopefully I'm publishing sometime this fall. I don't have a date yet, but there's a whole new cast that's being introduced. So I have an entire, I call it my book Bible, and it's just all the powers of who has what, so I can keep everything straight.
Do, do you find that to be a difficult thing is to figure out what powers people have?
Yes and no. It kind of depends. For some of them, the characters kind of told me. I was just writing them and then realized that they could do something, and I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for showing your true colors. And then there's a couple others that I just kind of knew I wanted to work in because I thought the powers were very cool. I wanted them in the book somewhere. So it's a mix between the two, whether the characters told me what powers they have, or I created a character because I knew I needed and wanted this power.
So you actually will start writing a character in without any idea of what they can do.
Yep, I have done that before. They're just very loud in my head.
That's bold. I have the problem with magic use, right? It's like, well, what can I have them do that will work, but doesn't make them so overpowered that they could just do this all the time and walk through this, real easily.
Yep. There's definitely like a checks and balance. Just you don't want everything solved by magic because then you just don't have a book. So they definitely have limitations of what they're able to do. Throughout this series, some of their powers are actually expanding the more they learn about themselves and kind of accept themselves. That's another strong theme in my books, is just finding your place in the world and accepting like who you truly are. So the powers are kind of constantly changing and growing, and factoring in those limitations. So, they can't just fix every problem with the snap of their fingers.
You could just give them wands and have them say things like Expelliarmus and
Yeah.
and have magic that does little to nothing. And why do you even bother?
It's true.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you this question, Bree, and don't take this the wrong way. But before the show started, you did admit that you didn't know who the Muppets were,
Yes,
which
I
makes
did.
me sad. But you've read Harry Potter, correct?
I have, yes.
Does it bother you that he learned this really cool spell and used it on Malfoy in a bathroom and then never used it again, even when people were getting killed around him?
I can honestly say I never really thought about it.
He learned lots of cool stuff he could have used.
I feel
Right?
I feel like he learned his lesson though, like maybe, but I mean, if it's against the bad guys, then I guess I don't know. I guess you're right. I guess he could have used it against the bad guys.
Yeah, he could have. All right, we won't go down the Harry Potter road.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. We'll come back from that tangent before we go way too far off.
No, we won't.
So, Ro, do you have any questions, or do you want me to get my Tower of Pain out?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're early. We're only 6 minutes into this, man. We can still like ad lib this for a while.
Okay.
What do you do for a real job?
I am editorial assistant for an online marketing website. So
Nice.
that's my day job. I work normally like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I try to factor in all my writing around those hours.
You don't have to start work until 10?
Yes, 10 to 6.
Sweet.
I'm lucky because they're based out of Las Vegas. So originally I had to work 12 to 8 because I'm on the East Coast.
Mhm.
But since I've been there a year now, they kind of worked with my schedule. So I didn't have to work so late. So I was able to lower it down to 10 to 6.
And that's nice because you're kind of in the business as well, and you get to see how parts of it, other than the writing part, works. So what cool thing have you learned doing that for the last year that you can share with everyone else?
I have recently learned because I mostly just do like obviously creative writing. So now I work with a lot of freelance writers when it comes to like just websites. So we're doing like legal blogs and one of our clients a plumber. So it's just a very different type of writing that they
Oh, right.
do.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I work for a place where I'm an editor as well, and they still insist on double spaces after a period. It's,
some of
oh,
those
anyway,
writers do also do that.
yeah, that's just
The double
painful.
spaces.
Oh.
Absolutely painful. Now, you also said that you are kind of pursuing a bit of a hybrid route with your authorship.
Yes, correct.
So take us through what you're doing.
So I've been actually I've been querying agents since 2020. So I'm now 4 years into the querying trenches. I did originally query strangers. It obviously didn't really go anywhere. But I know at this point, kind of being like a foot in both worlds for so long, I kind of know what might hit traditionally, like the traditional market, versus what I'm better off just self-publishing and handling my own. So now my strangers, it's going to be a planned trilogy. And then I have another book I already wrote that's a standalone in the same universe. And then I did write my last book that I just wrote is an adult romantic fantasy that I am still currently querying agents for that one, since it's just a little more mainstream and whether they want it or not, I don't know yet. But I'm still going down that road for my adult work right now.
Have you gotten any responses back from agents yet?
I've had 3 fulls out so far. I actually just got a form rejection this past Friday, so a little bit of interest, but no real bites yet. No agent offers.
They didn't even give you a letter that wasn't a form letter?
No.
That's
Yeah, unfortunately, the querying side of things have seemed to be changing, even from like 2020. Like I can't imagine being a writer who queried before then, because I know agents would provide more feedback. They had more time, and I think just everything 2020 on they've just been so far behind that. even some of my like querying friends, it's very rare these days to get like a full like actionable feedback, which is kind of disappointing, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do about it?
Well, I don't even really expect feedback so much for them. Just, handwritten postcard would be kind of nice. But you can read cursive, right?
Yes, I can.
Well, I again, not trying to be insulting. There are many people older than you who cannot. So
Yeah,
So go ahead.
I was gonna say I can't admit that I've lost a lot of cursive. I don't write in it anymore, but I am still able to read it at least. So
So I have a follow-up question. Have you always been turned on by pain and rejection, and hence you do the querying?
yeah, I am definitely a masochist. Just love being rejected all the time. So I actually I print out all of my rejections. So I have like a stack, like at least 300 like rejection letters by now that I keep. So I'm just like fueled by spite at this point, I think.
Have you ever sent a "I reject your rejection" letter to them?
that's right. No, I don't accept this.
No, I've joked about it before. Especially there was a rejection before about the agent. She was very kind, but she just said that she had my query for too long and it wasn't fair, so she's just gonna step aside. And I was just like, you could take all the time you want if it's going to lead somewhere. But I didn't say that. I really wanted to, but I was just let it go.
So when did your book come out? The one that you submitted to SPFBO?
I was released November 6th of 2023, so it's still
So
a
it's been out.
babyish book.
Been out a
Yeah.
little while.
Yeah.
Okay. And so had you heard about SPFBO from who, and what kind of got you into saying, what the hell, I'll throw my hat in this year?
So I started seeing the hashtags on Twitter mainly, and I was just started looking into it. I didn't know if my book was fantasy enough for it because it is contemporary, and I didn't know if it was only big epic fantasies and whatnot. So I kind of threw a tweet out there and just asked for anyone's opinion. And then Catherine got back to me first and was like, yeah, go ahead. Like, it's any type of fantasy. Like, if you think
Yeah.
it's fantasy, it's fantasy. And it is contemporary fantasy. So that gave me the extra kind of validation that I'm not wasting anyone's time, and decided to sign up for it. And then I'm not a lucky person by nature. So I was actually really shocked that I won the lottery to begin with. So now we're just rolling with it.
So Bree, last year in our group, Katie Andrews ended up winning our group, and she came in second for SPFBO 9. And it was a romantasy with one person who was a necromancer and her husband who was a gardener. So
Necrophiliac mancer, different mancer. Just
so yeah, you're in the right group.
Perfect.
hey, how do you find it writing contemporary fantasy? Because there's so much in the world right now that is almost magic in its own right. How do you get away from, well, I'll just Google it, when you're writing contemporary fantasy set in a modern situation?
Yeah, there's a lot of the biggest reason that I write contemporary fantasy is just because I love putting that layer of magic on just the everyday mundane stuff. So there are certainly things that I do have to Google just so people aren't just like, wait, that's not what like Florida weather is like, because I don't live in Florida. I don't want to mess everything up. So there is some stuff that I will make sure it stays true to contemporary US. But then the rest of the time is just being able to add those extra levels of like the powers, and then being able to kind of world build there, and just focus on the magic of what can and cannot work, and kind of build my own world building rules.
So do you have a character whose like magic power is that they can instantly do the TPS reports and not have to worry about it?
Nope, I don't have that one. That could be something. Right now, at least with book one, they were more concerned with just staying alive, so they kind of were like homeless and hiding under the radar because they didn't want society to actually know about them. So none of the characters really have like real jobs or
Cell
anything of that
phones.
sort. Yeah. um I actually just introduced cell phones to book 2 just because my character ends up like her past foster family is a part of the book still, so there's still some like everyday modern getting like a cell phone type thing. But for the most part, the powers I have tried to focus on like the kinetic powers. So usually it's not something that's like brand new, never have been seen before or anything like that. It's usually elemental magic or a kinetic power.
Now, one of our commenters here, John, said he thinks the TPS report, you didn't get it because you don't know who the Muppets are.
Oh, yep, that's true.
Did you get did you get the TPS report reference?
Nope. I
You
just
played it
thought you
off
were.
really well. Well done.
I thought you were
kind of-
just asking me about a office TPS report.
I kind of wondered whether or not you got it or not, and then I said, no, I think maybe she did. Well, so well done. It's from the movie Office Space. You need to put it on your watch list. It's a classic. You need to see it.
I do know Office Space. I love that movie. I just don't watch the Muppets.
Well, but the TPS report is all about. That's what Office Space is all about. Okay. All right, Mike. Mike, do your thing.
We're going to roll for a silly question now.
Because you haven't had any of those yet.
Right. Oh, we got number 10. What would be the biggest obstacle to making your book into a silent movie?
Talking. Sorry.
That probably would be the biggest obstacle.
Would they be able to pantomime their scenes?
I mean, I guess part of it, because the biggest thing with Gemma and Theo, when they are dreaming of each other, they actually can't communicate. So that part would go over well because they don't have to talk anyways. But kind of when they meet in real life, it'd get more difficult from there, of them trying to learn and discover each other in the real life. So I think talking might be the biggest obstacle.
Okay.
What would the because on the old timey non-talky movies, they used to have little like subtitles kind of below it, right? They kind of give you the idea of the story. What would
I'm not as old as you, Ro. I don't remember them.
I've watched the movie tone film reels. What would one say? Give us an example of a scene, and what would it say below it that wasn't dialogue, but would just kind of be explaining what was happening in the scene? Because that's not putting you on the spot at all. I understand. Look at him sweat.
There is a part where there is this like evil entity type character who is hunting Gemma down because he wants to take her powers, essentially. And he kind of turns into like, he can't stay in human form very long, so he kind of turns into a mist, and then he can turn into like crows and just kind of do whatever. But the more he does speak, the more he's just exaggerated with this group of like magical teenagers he has to deal with. So it'd probably just be him with misting out, and like a description would just be like Draven is fed up with human teenagers, basically, and that's pretty
Nice.
much all you would have to
Wait,
understand about him.
Wait, he's a bad guy and he's fed up with human teenagers? I think I like him.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Stop my lawn, you damn hippies.
And we have a serious question here because this is why we have people who watch, so they can ask the real questions.
Way to bring us down, Bo.
So how would you celebrate, and is this your first competition?
It's not technically my first competition. I did sign up earlier, just a couple months ago, to the BBNYA competition, but that's still kind of ongoing as well. So I haven't heard any results about that, and I don't think I'm going to anytime soon. So this is the second current ongoing competition. But if I happen to win, which would be kind of crazy, I actually don't know how I would celebrate because I haven't thought that far ahead. But it'd probably just involve dinner, champagne, having a fun night, and I don't know, waiting for my selfie stick, I guess.
You also get a little chip, whatever, what do we call it, bro? That I made everyone show me the medallion.
Oh
from
yeah,
their
yeah.
fingers.
That's cool medallion.
Yeah, you get nice little, looks like a poker chip, but it has a dragon eating its
And
tail.
And if you're a finalist, you get to be on this show again if you'd like, unless you want to win, in which case you don't go on this show.
We interviewed 9 of the 10 finalists, and the winner was the one who would not come on our show.
Oh, well, I mean, if I won, I'll come back. It's fine if you guys want. If I'm invited back, I'll come back.
Only if we talk smack about Tom Brady.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
as long
I'm
as,
going to assume that Sarah Moore here is your chum.
yes.
All right.
I'm now seeing the comp. Yeah.
Welcome, Sarah. Do us a favor, Miss Moore. Go like and subscribe, please. And anybody else who hasn't done that, please do that. Thank you very much.
Sarah,
Oh, thanks, Tim.
Sarah is my underpaid personal assistant. That's her official title. So
Underpaid or unpaid?
basically unpaid.
Okay.
We
Won't
keep
work
saying
for coffee.
we keep saying underpaid, but in reality, I'm not paying her anything. But she's my girl. I love her.
So, Ro, do you mind if we take just a quick instant here and tell people what we have coming up if we should hit 500 subscribers by this year?
Yes, let's do that.
So on their last show, I told I told Ro I would do this, and now I actually have a picture. So if we get to 500 subscribers by the end of this year, I will get this tattoo.
Very nice. I'm a big fan of that. So everyone, please subscribe.
Yes, we all want to see that. Definitely. More to the point, I want to see them doing it. Bo asks Sarah, share some embarrassing moments so we can watch her squirm. Oh, see, that's the beauty of this group of people, right? It's just a welcoming group of other writers to kind of get you together and just give you that, compassion and that you just don't get everywhere else.
Yeah,
and keep you humble. And keep you humble. You don't have to worry about it.
We're really big into keeping people humble. Yeah, that's stock in trade. Roll 'em, Mike.
Okay, let's see if we got
wait. Sarah has 15 years worth of embarrassing stories. Well, you tell.
Ooh.
Just give us a bullet statement, Sarah. Ask her, put down something that she has to explain.
Sarah, I'll start paying you.
So here's your question. What is the weirdest task or job you've ever had to do?
Become an indie author and go on stupid YouTube channels.
There's people that aspire to that, Ro.
The only thing that's coming to mind right now, I'm sure there's been a lot of weird ones, but when I was a teenager, I used to do the 4-H program. It might just be like a New York thing, so I don't know if everyone will know that, but basically I showed cows in competitions. And it was
nice.
And it was very much against my will. It was my stepdad at the time. He worked at a farm. So yeah, I have dabbled in showing cows to the public, and I don't recommend it.
So it's safe to assume then that you have milked a cow by hand.
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have a serious question, and not from Ro or I.
Okay.
Here's a surprise.
My favorite scene to write.
The end. Oh,
once again, not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book. When Gemma and Theo meet in real life, they end up running into each other quite literally in the middle of the woods because Nora, one of the other characters, she's clairvoyant and sent Theo out into the woods because he had to come find someone. Little did he know he was finding Gemma. And she was running from that evil entity chasing her. So she's screaming at this random dude in the woods to like start running. And then that's when she grabs his arm and it turns into a whole thing. And they realize that like, it's you exist in real life. So them meeting for the first time in person was definitely my favorite scene to write.
And another serious question from someone who takes this show seriously.
Let's just cut this down to what.
Go to comfort read.
War and Peace. War and Peace. Oh no.
I would say I have two answers to this. One's really dark, so I might go with the lighter one. But I love Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Her duology I read at least once a year. And then I mean I could say my darker one.
Yes, definitely.
The other book I read at least once a year is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I'm a big fan of The Book Thief. So it's just obviously not that happy. So.
And what is it about those two that appeal to you, or either one of those that appeals to you to make you want to go back and read it that often?
Six of Crows is definitely the found family aspect. My favorite trope in the world. I love found family. So just that their entire group, especially Kaz, their leader, is nothing like Theo. They're completely different leaders of the group, but just their found family just always makes me feel better. And then with The Book Thief, I don't know, it's just a beautiful story. I just love it so much. So just the writing, the entire Leslie, everything about it, it just makes me feel better. So I read that one just more for the writing. How he writes is beautiful. And then Six of Crows is found family.
Do you find when you're writing your own book that you think back to these books or any other books to like, how would this person handle this? Or if you're kind of thinking, when you're putting your story arc together of these other books that you're familiar with, and you kind of go back and say, okay, how did they do this? Right. What was their progression?
I do that with Leigh Bardugo more than Marcus Zusak, just since his isn't like fantasy by any means, so it's hard to like kind of pull from there since it is like more historical and Nazi Germany and stuff like that, so much darker. But with Leigh's, I do think of like how she balances the different characters and how they all interact with each other. And, not everyone, even if you're in the same group, you don't always have to get along all the time. So there is a little bit of sniping at each other. If you're around people long enough, even if you're close friends, there's bound to be arguments about something. So.
Yeah. So do you like to read epic fantasy by any chance?
I do. I don't read it as often, but I'm a fan of it.
So I have a book recommendation for you then.
Okay.
Tori Tecton, who does Tori Talks YouTube channel, she came out with a book, The Bloodstones, and she is all about found family. So if you like that trope and you like epic fantasy, you should definitely give that a try.
Okay, perfect.
It's on my list to read next, but I've heard enough people talk about it that they really loved it that I would recommend it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Roll, Mike.
Okay. 18. This might be a repeat. If your book became a theme park ride, what would the experience be like and what would it be called?
Oh, boy. I thought you said these questions aren't hard.
They're not serious.
You can make it up. We'll never know.
I mean, are they the saucers that just go around in circles, or teacups, or is it a roller coaster? Carousel?
I would say I'm gonna go with a roller coaster, just because there are just a lot of. It's kind of like the wave type of story where there's just always something next. So once one thing is resolved, then immediately they have another problem. So there's just
There's no stopping.
yeah. And what it would be called is um my nickname for the group is the Chaos Crew. So
Okay.
I'll just be the Chaos Crew roller coaster.
Okay.
So, are you a person who's pretty patient with things?
No. I picked
So,
the worst profession, I know, but
so the
no.
next couple of months as they go through and you start going through summer not knowing what the deal is with because this SPFBO doesn't end until when?
The finalist was just announced April 30th.
Right, yeah. So the further you go in this, well, no, I mean once you make that first cut, right? You're in it for like 6 months.
So last year with Fantasy Faction, they cut 5 of us in July, so nothing at all in June, and 5 in July, and then I think 5 in August. And then they finally got down towards the end in the last 6 days, like, okay, here are our 6 semifinalists. Congratulations, you're 6th in your cut. Next day, you're 5th in your cut. You're 4th in your cut. And I mean, it went down to the wire. And it's like, we got 2 books left. We'll tell you tomorrow who the winner is. So yeah, there's a lot of waiting, which is why put it out of your head and, think about querying, because that's so much more fun.
Yeah. That's it. Thankfully, I mean, between the two, it's always a waiting game. I've been querying since 2020. Unfortunately, I haven't learned to be a patient person yet. I'm still working on it. But with book 2 coming out this fall, I'll start to get, now that that's picking up, my book's with my editor right now. So since that ball's rolling, I'll at least have distractions to keep me occupied for the next year. So
And you'll have lots of these type of things to do. So,
yep.
and you'll still want to write and probably make some new letters. Do you ever put anything in your query letters like that's just way out of place just to see if they read the whole thing?
No, I'm not brave enough to do that. Yeah, I usually just stick to what they asked for.
Yeah, that's fair. If you're asking somebody to represent you in a way that will make you money, it's probably just as well. Don't ever take advice from me on anything. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give you.
I mean, you're a Patriots fan, so
Dodgy at best. Yeah.
And if I was a Patriots player, all of those would have jewelry. But I'm not. So yeah, whatever.
And if he was a Patriots player, he could afford to get the good maple syrup from Canada.
Mike pushing my freaking buttons tonight, man.
We know what buttons to push.
They also make maple syrup around Buffalo, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I don't eat a lot of maple syrup, but I'm sure there's.
It's got that New York stink on it though, so it's not quite as good.
But you know what they have some very photogenic cows in Buffalo.
Apparently,
They do. Yeah.
They go on tour.
Have a whole competition.
1 year at cow camp. I'm afraid that every movie reference I utter now you're not going to get, because all my movie references are like 40 years old.
I know that one time at band camp.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Tim McKay, where did you get a maple leaf emoji?
Well, the internet's been around for 25 years now. I guess they got around to doing something for Canada.
Throw him a bone, eh? Right. What's your tower give, Mike?
We're going to ask a serious question.
Oh, yeah. Bring on the serious question.
Let's see. What do we want here? What strategies do you use to market and promote your self-published fantasy novel?
I'm actually trying to get better at it. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram more so for strangers. I try to make my posts and my reels and stuff like that. I I have kind of fallen off the bandwagon a little bit when I started drafting the sequel because there's just only so many hours in the day. So I am trying to get better now, and I'm starting to build up posts so I can schedule them out and kind of stay on top of it. But basically, at this point in time, social media is really my only marketing. And then I try to do some in-person events as much as possible just to get my name out, like locally as well.
Do you do full-on Comic-Cons or more like farmers markets, or?
I would love to do a Comic-Con, but there's like
You wouldn't.
No, you would actually. Comic-Cons are fun.
I think I would have so I haven't done like a big book festival yet. I've just been the more like farmer market-esque, but I'm going to be later this year in September. I'm going to Salem, Massachusetts for Anytime Author promotion, getting witchy with it. So I will be at that book festival the second weekend of September. And that's going to be my first big like actual book event that I've been invited to.
So Ro and I go to Comic-Cons fairly often.
Because book things won't have us. Real book events.
Oh, and hey, we have to say thank you to Catherine for doing the Blitz. She's the one who came up with the idea. And just so you know, all the behind the scenes work, she did all of that. I mean, I made the thumbnails and that's about it. She did all the other heavy lifting. So Catherine, you are a rock star. And I'm glad you're able to pop on so we could tell you.
And I do want to say thank you to Catherine as well. Literally, if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would have entered because I was so hesitant because of the whole contemporary fantasy. And she was the one who reached out to me and said, like, yeah, do it. Like, sign up. So I did. And here we are. So
hopefully you don't have to go back and blame her in a couple of months. You're the one that did this to me.
And you know what? As long as your book is not the first one kicked out, you can say you did better than I did.
You could say that anyway. You had to beat people just to get into it. He didn't have to. He just had to
That's true.
Yeah, thankfully I didn't really have like any expectations going in. So like whether I make it or not, I'm just happy for like the networking aspect. There's a whole new like between the Discords and everyone, like a whole community that I wasn't aware of before. So
yep.
I'm just happy to be here.
And that's the right attitude to have, because I mean the whole thing is about networking, making connections, and you know, like one person, they had their pre-order on Amazon cut down because they hit the wrong button or something, and Amazon was unresponsive. And instead of screaming into the void, he could at least talk on Twitter, and everyone could go, "Yeah, Amazon sucks." And we can't do anything about it, but we feel your pain.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a community that understands, because I try telling my friends at work and they just get the glazed eye look, which I interpret as they're really interested, so I should continue.
You read people so well.
Yeah, I understand. My husband, he's in the other room right now, but the amount of book stuff I tell him and he just nods along, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I know I'm probably speaking Japanese to you, but he tries, so I appreciate it.
Is he on the thing tonight with us?
I'm actually not sure if he is or not. He said he might watch live, or he might wait until after, because he knew I was very nervous about it.
So what's his contribution to your sanity while writing?
The biggest thing, he just came out. He gave me a thumbs up. He's watching. He is basically my biggest cheerleader, which I very much appreciate. And I kind of tend to, especially when I see the finish line of a book, that I don't like come up for air almost. So he's just like, okay, have you bothered eating today? You might want to eat something. So he reminds me that there is, an actual life outside of the world I'm currently building. So it's nice to be able to.
Does he just remind you to eat, or does he actually make you something to eat?
He makes me something. Yeah.
Oh, well played, young man. Well played.
Yeah, he keeps me alive at this point when I'm like, at that finish line. So
food is overrated. Sleep is overrated.
No. Neither of those things is overrated. Not even a little bit.
Okay.
What we got? I'm sorry. I have like a horrible kind of congestion and not asthma, but pollen thing. My head is
Asperger's.
just like ready to explode. So probably doesn't help that I have a 15-pound cat sitting on my lap putting up hair.
So I was going to ask you if you wanted a serious or a silly question, but I figured you'd say serious. So we're just going to roll the silly question instead. That's how we roll here. Pun meant. Number 9. Let's see. Would you rather spend a week at your day job or a week spent on adventure with your main character?
Oh, on an adventure with my main character for sure.
Really? Who is going to answer their day job on that?
Well, if you're going to get killed, like in my book, if you're one of Grami's friends, you're probably going to get killed. So,
I mean, it's fair. Like, they are on the run for the most part, but there's a big portion of time where they're just like hiding out and hanging out. So if it's a week of just like chilling with my characters, that would be cool.
It's kind of like Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. I don't know why that image just popped into my head. I just saw them running and then kind of hanging out in the junkyard. Never mind. Again, you don't get that reference. Go look it up. It's fine.
And Catherine will ask a serious question since we do not.
Strategy for waiting.
Since you published your book, I'm assuming. Any grand strategy for taking over the world?
No, not really. Which is probably bad. I should probably have more of a plan.
No, that makes you an author.
I have book 2. I would like to come out at the end of the year. I'd like to start writing book 3 later this year, so I could publish it early 2025 if possible. The standalone in the same universe is actually already finished. That was the first book I ever wrote, but it was like 2018. So I definitely need to go back and revamp it since it's very old at this point. So basically the rest of this year is just getting book 2 out and starting to plan for book 3 and fixing the standalone. And then if I happen to land an agent in the meantime, that'll be sweet. And hopefully that'll just shine more light on my self-published work and find readers that way as well.
And Catherine asked, what was your thought when you got into Fantasy Faction? Good, bad, or did you know anything about them?
I had no idea about any of the blogs, so I did check out the books that are in Fantasy Faction, and I realized that I'm up against some pretty good competition, so I'm not holding my breath by any means, because all the books look really good, really interesting. So just happy to be in it more than anything, but didn't dive in too far past that.
Yeah. Let's see. Can you hold your book up one more time and remind us what it is? Because that's why we're here.
If I can. Strangers in Our Heads.
Nice.
And it's a young adult contemporary fantasy.
Nice.
Dual point of view, first person present. I know first person present isn't everyone's cup of tea, so I understand.
Exclusive domain.
It is a dual point of view.
What can you tell us about romance? Because I'm editing Mike's sci-fi book right now, and he's going kind of semi-erotica on us with a little bit of it.
Really?
Trying to prime the pump for you, man.
Oh, okay, thanks. Or you can answer Catherine's question.
It's just one chapter, and it's no. It's only erotica in the way that American Pie is, but never mind.
I know that reference. No American Pie.
2.
Don't encourage him.
Same movie from the other reference, actually, but anyway.
So, which character was more fun to write?
I'm gonna say Theo, my male lead. He's kind of a mess. He's just trying to keep everyone safe. He's like the dad of the group. He's only 18, but he has taken it upon himself to keep all of his kids together and protected. So he has pretty high anxiety about things. He also failed to keep his little sister safe. So he has a lot of guilt to him, and that's why he's going so hard with the rest of the group. But he's just, as much of a mess as he is, he's very sarcastic at time, and it's just like I actually physically laugh when I write some of his parts because he's just so overwhelmed and done with everyone. So he was definitely my favorite character.
I thought for sure you were going to say Gemma.
I mean, I love Gemma too, but she just has, hers is a lot more grief heavy, just because she does lose her sister. Again, not spoiler, it's on the blurb, but so hers is very grief heavy of a point of view to write. So I love her, but sometimes I like the more lighthearted, sarcastic writing more.
And of the books that you've read, or did at least the excerpts on Fantasy Faction, do you have a guess as who's going to win if it's not you, in fact, who wins Fantasy Factions?
Actually, I have no idea. I didn't rank them in those terms. I just kind of scoped them out on Amazon and whatnot and gave a quick rundown, but I didn't think of who could possibly win.
So when you saw the group of 30 books and all the pictures of the covers and all that, did you get hit with a really big kind of I'm forgetting words. This is so bad. The imposter syndrome sledgehammer?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because I am very new in the sense of trying to get my name out there. So like at this point in time, Amazon, I think I only have like 6 reviews. Goodreads, I'm up to like 18 now. I got a couple of those since I've been in this competition, so that's very nice. But then when I started seeing the other books that have many reviews, that I'm just like, oh boy, like I don't know how I'm going up against them because whew, I feel like no one.
That just means that they've done more advertising and know more people. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a better book.
And they're old. They're probably old.
And, reviews, as any other author will tell you, and I say this without fear of being wrong for once in my life, that's the hardest thing to get. I mean, you just you can't sit there and force somebody to do it, right? So you're totally up against every other thing in their life and what they think is important, and whether or not they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So I to this day, I still go and check a couple times a week to see if I have any reviews, and a couple times a week I'm still disappointed. But there you go.
Okay, well, we are going to have to call it, unfortunately. We could ask you many more questions about how many ways you hate Tom Brady and other hard-hitting questions, but we do have another panel we have to get ready for, and by get ready for, I mean I have to, go eat dinner.
Yep, me too.
Perfect.
So it has been a blast, Bree. Thank you for that. And one more time, show us your book.
And we look forward to seeing you when you're a finalist.
Yes.
So you have 45 minutes to go onto Amazon and buy it before our next show. I don't know what else you could possibly be doing that's more important.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad I didn't hit 3 strikes, because then hopefully you guys will have me back on sometime.
We would have just deleted you right out. But
All right.
Okay, well,
for the
now
rest
it's
of
going
you
to wave awkwardly.
that don't have lives, come back at 8:30.
Have a good night. Thank you.
We're still live.